let's look at Litecoin. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Litecoin here is in the crypto group. You can see here different kinds of money compared. You can see that cryptos average 106% of the lows. That's a pretty big move. And today, Litecoin versus US dollar is the pair. 77% from the lows, though we are still quite some distance away from the 52-week high, minus 70%. What is Litecoin? The cryptocurrency for payments, based on blockchain technology. So let's just read through this. Litecoin is a peer-to-peer internet currency that enables instant, near-zero cost payments to anyone in the world. This is a major issue for many cryptos. The cost. It needs to be zero. Litecoin is an open-source global payment network that is fully decentralized without any central authorities. Mathematics secures the network and empowers individuals to control their own finances. Litecoin features faster transaction confirmation times and improved storage efficiency than the leading math-based currency. I think they are trying to say Bitcoin. With substantial industry support, trade volume, and liquidity, Litecoin is a proven medium of commerce complementary to Bitcoin. Okay, let's look at the seasonality of LTC / US dollar. We are currently in June. The bad news is that July and August are some of the worst months for Litecoin, especially August. Of course, you can always take a bearish position. That is easy to do with any kind of currency pair. But yeah, the seasonality is not helping the bulls. Let's look at the charts. Long-term picture here with weekly data points. If you go to the beginning of measurement, that's 1046% gain. Here is of course the super bubble we had, and then we had a nasty bear market. And here we did form a rounding bottom. It did work out for quite some time, but this is also a great lesson in how these kinds of patterns, they can break. But if you are actively managing your positions, then you could of course keep a lot of these gains. So if you measure the move here, rounding bottom move, to the top here, that's like almost 500%. And if you have like some kind of stop mechanism like a limit stop, trailing stop, it depends on your platform, then you could be able to get out, way before the bottom here. Because if you measure the fall from this high to this low, minus 71%, so active management is very important, because there's a big difference between having almost 500% gain vis-a-vis having a 72% gain, or alternatively 82% or 83%. That's a big difference. Yeah, this rounding bottom, it could have become a cup and handle pattern, but then the bears got more aggressive and they basically ruined that pattern. You could make the case that maybe we're forming another rounding bottom here. We have a bit of a rounding-ish formation. Though the bulls are under quite significant pressure, because you don't have to go too far back to see a major low. And if you measure from this low to the recent high here, as an example, that's almost 100. No, that is 100%. Hence, there are some very big moves in cryptos. It's very tradable. Like if you were shorting this pair, as an example, this move here to this low, like minus 68%. That's decent. That's a big move. The problem we have though, if we take the bullish side, it's saying that this is potentially some kind of rounding-ish formation, which has worked out, in the past. There's some weak seasonality, and there is a bit too much selling pressure. I would prefer us to stay above this pinkish 10-week moving average, but we are now below all the key moving averages, and that is bearish. Okay. The correlation with S&P 500 is minus 8%, so basically there is no correlation. Okay. If you look at the accumulation distribution line, we are seeing that the buyers are stepping in. Hence, given that we have recently been close to these lows, there could of course be people who are taking this as an opportunity to get into Litecoin at a low price. Obviously, if you are a long-term crypto bull, it makes a lot more sense to buy here than to buy here or here. So that's, you know, if you have the long-term perspective, then you could consider it. Then again, given the seasonality, there is a high likelihood that there could be better entry opportunities towards August. Looking at the daily data points here, you can quite clearly see that there are some really huge cycle patterns. Here's a super big cycle. Within these cycles, we do have these smaller cycles. Let's see if they are consistent. Let's look at it here. I mean, you do see that there are some cycle patterns here, but the cycles, they do change a bit in their in how long they are. But it is pretty clear by looking at the chart that there are obvious rising and declining cycles, because that is something that differs between securities. Some have this cycle behavior, others they are a bit more jagged, or they move in different ways, like the rally, correct. I mean, the behavior differs. The benefit with the securities that have these rising and declining cycles, like mountains, like boulders, is that they are easier for swing traders. You can be long and then you can be short, long and then short. Because when there are shorting opportunities here, you can see that there are, it continues for multiple days. So it's not like bull rally and then boom, down. Okay, well, moving averages, we are below all the key moving averages here. That's quite bearish. Yeah, unfortunately for the bulls. Let's have a bit of a segment about blockchain. The things that cryptocurrencies, they are backed by what we call, you know, the network. A network of computers, which is also called nodes, that validates and verify transaction on the public ledger. It is a secure and public platform, and no single user can change the algorithm. They are decentralized, and the chain is hence anti-fragile. Because one concern people have when they hear about blockchain, the word chain, is that, oh, is it so a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, but don't worry, that is not the case with the blockchain. They are inherently anti-fragile. So it is not like literally like a chain, where like one weak link and then it all falls apart. The level of decentralization varies significantly among cryptocurrencies. Then you have the concept called the blockchain's public ledger. It's like a diary of transactions. When a Bitcoin changes ownership, as an example, it's recorded on the blockchain and public for anyone to view. Okay, to summarize my take on Litecoin versus the US dollar, if you have a very long-term perspective, you are kind of speculating a bit about the blockchain and cryptocurrencies, then this is of course a better time to buy than we've seen in a long time. If you are of the mentality buy low, sell high, the seasonality does suggest that you might have a better opportunity maybe in July or August, because as we saw quite clearly, July and August are weaker than our current month, historically speaking. Okay, let's look at US 500, the S&P 500 futures. We have to look at it. Okay, we have been able to stay above the red 200-day moving average. It is a very, very important moving average, because the saying goes is that bull markets are above it, while bears are below it. And in this instance, it is especially important to stay above because there is doubt, much doubt about this rally. was it really a recovery? You know, in a real sense, that this reflects an improved situation for the US economy, more broadly the world economy, given that the companies in the S&P 500 are quite global in scope? Or alternatively, was this just the effect of speculation and added liquidity by the central bank? Hence, we definitively want, if you are a bull, you definitively want to see us stay above the 200-day moving average. We have tested this multiple times here. It is interesting to see here in the futures today, we went up here to test the 5-day moving average, and that one has turned surgically into a resistance level. To struggle with the 5-day moving average, that is not a sign of strength. Even though we have been able to fight our way above the red line, I mean, there is vulnerability here. So could be some very exciting times going forward here for the S&P 500. Because June is historically a weak month for the S&P 500. And we don't have that many days left. And we haven't had a real, correction since this rally begun. We've just had a few pullbacks, so we are very much due a correction. And a correction now would happen at a vulnerable time. Hence, the bulls have a lot of work to do this summer. They cannot go on a summer holiday, because then the bears can start to get quite feisty. A very interesting phenomenon to keep our eye on going forward is actually this guy called Dave Portnoy. He has this massive beef with what he calls the suits. So basically, this is a day trader and swing trader who is a newcomer to the stock market, and he has a huge army of fellow investors behind him. The key feature of him is that he is highly antagonistic towards the establishment and Wall Street, and he is famous for saying that stocks only go up, and anytime the stock market goes down, he argues that it is due to the conspiracy of the suits. They're trying to push down the market, to screw over the retail investor. The reason why this guy is, it is very interesting to keep our eye on him is because of Occupy Wall Street. Not that far back, back in the days of the financial crisis, we had a rather, influential movement called Occupy Wall Street. It disappeared. It just did. However, if we do see some great deterioration in the stock market, this guy and his army of followers will definitively put a lot of pressure and put the blame on, the suits, the establishment. Hence, I do think one of my theories is that this guy right here, he could be the leader of Occupy Wall Street 2.0, and it could be very influential and very disruptive. So definitely a guy to keep your eye on. He was actually kicked from E-Trade the other day as well, which is quite interesting. Okay, whatever you do, of course, don't fight the trend, and may the trend be with you.